What if you've been asking yourself the wrong question? Maybe the question isn't, why do I keep self-sabotaging? Maybe it's, what has my body been trying to protect me from? Because I don't actually believe most people are sabotaging themselves. I think they're responding exactly to the way their biology has learned to respond. And once I understood this, it completely changed how I viewed healing, business, confidence, relationships, and human potential. By the end of this video, you'll understand why you keep repeating the patterns even when you know exactly what to do. We'll talk about the nervous system, but more importantly, we'll talk about what becomes possible when your biology finally feels safe enough to grow. Think about someone who's intelligent, creative, hardworking, they have incredible ideas, they've read the books, they've taken the courses, they know what they should do: launch the business, raise the prices, apply for the opportunity, speak on stage, post the video, be more consistent. Yet every time they get close, they hesitate, they procrastinate, they overthink, they convince themselves it's not the right time. Most personal development tells us this is a mindset problem. I think that's incomplete, because knowing what to do has never guaranteed doing it. So the real question becomes, why? For years, I thought success was mostly about discipline. I believed if I just became more productive, more motivated, more organized, more consistent, everything would fall into place. But over the last decade, building businesses, working with thousands of women, studying biology, I kept seeing something I couldn't ignore. The women who struggled the most weren't the ones who lacked information. Often, they were the ones who knew the most. They understood nutrition, they understood marketing, they understood business, they understood culture and relationships, society, mindset, yet they still felt stuck. And that forced me to ask a different question. What if the barrier isn't knowledge? What if it's capacity? So let's simplify this. Your nervous system has many jobs, but one of its most fundamental roles is helping you detect and respond to potential threats. Much of this happens automatically, long before you're consciously thinking about it. If your brain perceives danger, your body prepares. Your heart rate changes, your muscles tense, your attention narrows, your breathing shifts. And that's incredibly useful if you're avoiding a real physical threat. But the nervous system also learns from experience. If visibility once led to criticism, if speaking up led to rejection, if success created conflict, your brain can begin associating those situations with danger. And that doesn't mean that you're broken, it means your body adapted. And adaptation is one of the most remarkable things about being human. The challenge is that sometimes those protective patterns and mechanisms continue long after their original threat has passed. And thus, we're looping a reality that doesn't exist. And this is where things get interesting. Think about procrastination. Maybe it's not laziness. Maybe it's protection. Perfectionism. Maybe it's not high standards. Maybe it's an attempt to reduce the risk of criticism. People pleasing. Maybe it's an old strategy that once helped maintain safety or perceived safety in relationships. Constantly starting over, changing business ideas, waiting until everything feels perfect. These behaviors can make a lot more sense when we stop asking what's wrong with me and start asking what might my body have learned. And that question changes everything, because it moves us from shame into curiosity, and curiosity is a beautiful little golden key. We have to really look at this as our nervous system started being programmed in our mother's womb. And though we may not be able to consciously know what happened in that time period and in our early childhood years, the more that we start to understand the bigger picture of this and how this has impacted our biology, how it has imprinted our subconscious mind, it all starts to piece together the solution. And this is where my perspective begins to differ. I don't think the goal is simply to regulate your nervous system. I think regulation creates something much bigger. It creates capacity. And I define capacity as your ability to stay present, grounded, and connected to yourself while experiencing more of life. And being in that state of presence, groundedness, connectedness, in that state of curiosity, we start to open our lens or take off our perceived lens that we might not even know that we're wearing. We might not even realize that we've got purple lenses on. But this allows us to come to a point where we're coming into more of a coherent state, and we're not thinking about the past. We're not stuck projecting into the future and catastrophizing things or repeating these patterns that were imprinted on us throughout our lifetime. So when we're able to do this, we're able to experience and hold more responsibility. We're able to move through uncertainty with deeper faith and trust, rather than allowing ourselves to just crumble and sabotage, where we allow ourselves to have more visibility, to have better leadership, to invite in more real love and be able to express real love, to experience and have success, sustainable success, to be able to actually be a present, incredible mother or parent, to have more contribution, meaningful contribution. And so the greater your capacity, the more of who you're able to express, and being able to express the version of you that you want to express, because so many of us, and I've struggled with this throughout my lifetime, and I've gotten better, all about getting better each day, even if it's like 0.5%, it all adds up. And so being able to express who you want, that version of you that you want to express, because so many of us are under layers and layers and layers and layers of these different facades and these characters and expectations and projections and assumptions and programming, let's not kid ourselves, that it masks and hides us from who we actually are. So many of us don't even really know who we are and the beauty of it. And so that's why I really believe biology isn't just about health. Biology creates capacity, and capacity influences expression. Expression allows contribution. Contribution creates meaning, and meaning is one of the foundations of a flourishing life. And that's the journey I've become fascinated with. Not just helping people feel better, but helping them become more fully themselves outside of those layers of conditioning and programming and expectations and trauma. And so rather getting to that core of like who you were divinely designed to be before the world told you who to be. And so where do you even begin in this? First, we have to replace judgment with curiosity, and we have to also bring ourselves into the present moment. So being really mindful of like being just curious, like be the observer of your thoughts, of your emotions, not in the judgment, right? Being able to just like sit where you're like, oh, that was an interesting thought, or that was a gross thought, or, oh, that was a beautiful thought, and really looking at our emotions, of becoming more emotionally intelligent to be able to actually label and define what we're feeling. Like, it's like, okay, I'm feeling frustration, or I'm actually feeling fear, or I'm feeling like grief. And so instead of asking, why am I sabotaging myself, and continuing this, ask, what might my body be protecting me from? What belief? And also looking at like, what emotions am I trying to mask or hide from, rather than just allowing yourself to feel it and learn from it. So of course, you want to support your biology. Good sleep, proper nutrition, movement, stress recovery, healthy relationships, time in nature. These aren't just healthy habits, they influence your capacity to think clearly, recover, and engage with challenges. When you're all burnt out and tired, or you haven't got enough sleep, like the last thing that you're gonna do is probably function at your best, right? Same with nutrition. All of those things. And then third is like take small, courageous actions. Real change comes from repeated experiences that teach your brain, I can do this. Okay, I can be okay. And document it. Be able to have like a list that you mentally, or I actually suggest like physical lists that you can reference when you really need it, when you feel like that spiraling of that pattern, that self-sabotaging pattern is surfacing. Being able to truly understand your brain pattern and your emotional addiction cycle, and looking at where that's rooted from, right? Back to looking at childhood, looking at previous experiences. And instead of looking for all of the things that validate why that is true or has been true up until this point, start to create new experiences that disprove it. And that means actually going into and through the fire. We can't solve these problems by continually ignoring them or avoiding them. Right? It's like we have to really go headfirst into this and create a new narrative. And that takes time and practice. And so it's giving yourself that grace and being able to create new experiences, leading with that curiosity and that belief that you can have a different experience and you're worthy of whatever it is that you dream of or desire of experiencing, human flourishing. And then, take note of those as your proof list that, it doesn't always end this way. Oh, okay. Maybe it creates like a sliver, and then that gets wider and wider and wider. And then eventually that just becomes your new path and your new experience. And then the more that you do that, of course, it just keeps on unfolding. And the more that you keep building your capacity, you get stronger and you'll be able to get over larger hurdles and bring on larger success, and so on and so forth. Over time, those experiences help update the predictions that your nervous system makes about the world, about your world. One of the biggest shifts in my own life happened when I stopped asking, how do I force myself to become someone else? And started asking, what conditions help me become more fully who I already truly am, who God designed me to be. I don't believe your biology is the enemy. I believe it's one of our greatest windows into understanding ourselves. And not because biology answers every question, but because it reveals something essential. Your body has been adapting all along. And when we begin working with it instead of against it, we create the conditions for growth, not just in business, not just in health, but in how we fully express the life we've been given. If this conversation resonated with you, let me know in the comments, where in your life do you feel you're being invited to expand your capacity? And if you're interested in exploring the biology behind human flourishing, identity, and becoming, I'd love to have you subscribe, because that's exactly what we'll be exploring here.